What's a terrifying fact about space? In a few billion years, if the expansion of the universe keeps on exceeding, which is the current theory, any new civilization that are born then will think their galaxy is all they have, because the universe will be expanding far beyond the speed of light, so light from distant galaxies will never reach them. Today, we know of the billions of galaxies out there, and we should feel privileged that the space we see today in the sky allows us some magnificent views. Future civilizations won't have that privilege, heck, they won't even know about it, which is sad. There's this thing called the Drake equation, which is used to calculate the number of alien civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy. The exact number is up for debate, but pretty much every space expert agrees there is a really good chance there are tons of aliens out there. This leads to the creation of the Fermi paradox, which asks why we haven't been able to find aliens in space if there are so many mathematically calculated to be out there. Source: my professor was an award-winning NASA rocket scientist and would not shut up about this. That the universe we live now, where there are galaxies, stars, planets, is basically a tiny percentage of the universe's actual life. That, if current theories are correct, the vast majority of the universe's life will be black holes and scattered matter flying around, with no light, no energy, etc. And even then, it might hint and our universe will be in perfect harmony, with energy evenly distributed by the whole universe, where nothing happens, and it keeps not happening, forever. It is really weird to even think about it. No matter how cool you think it is, no matter how much you want to go, no matter how long or how hard you train to be an astronaut, no matter how much being in space is your dream, you may still have a massive panic attack once you cross out of Earth's atmosphere and hate your time in orbit. Many astronauts experience an overwhelming sense of grief and dread upon looking at actual outer space from a shuttle window. This phenomenon actually ruined the trip to space for William Shatner, who wanted to go to space for decades, as in, the space beyond our atmosphere. It's saturated with deadly radiation, there's nothing to breathe, and there's no pressure to keep you from blowing up like a balloon. As far as we know, the vast majority of the universe is wildly hostile to life. A single gamma-ray burst or supernova nearby could scour our planet clean. The fact that we're here is a giant lottery win that could be over at any minute. We're all alone here, and sitting in a firing range. Once you truly appreciate this, you'll never feel so small. The biggest black hole we know of, the Phoenix Black Hole, is so big that it has a diameter roughly 99 times bigger than our solar system. Also, fun fact, if we got hit by one of the most destructive forces in the universe, the gamma-ray burst, we would have no way to know beforehand. The moment we know it'll hit us, we won't even have time to make a single sound before we're turned to dust. So we are on this giant, from our perspective, ball of rock hurtling through space at high speed, around a very mediocre star. That rock is a thin film of water, and all living things we know live either on that surface or in that film. Everything else in space is out there to kill us. We just got lucky so far to be able to discuss this. Even a little bit off, we would not exist. Every year, a fraction of the stars we can detect vanish. When they do, they will never be seen, or measured, by us again, in any way, no matter what we do. This is because expansion of space moves them away from us faster than the speed of light. Extrapolate this, and eventually space will become a void around us, with nothing to remind people it wasn't always the case. Because sound is just vibrating air, space has no air to vibrate and therefore no sound. If you are sitting in a spaceship and another spaceship explodes, you would hear nothing. Exploding bombs, crashing asteroids, supernovas, and burning planets would similarly be silent in 2013. 0214D. Does sound travel faster in space? That it in the rest of the universe is unstable, at least according to our current understanding of vacuum decay. A bubble could be expanding from somewhere at the speed of light or near it, converting the universe into a stable state that may not support the formation of particles, atoms, and molecules. Without a special plasma jet on the International Space Station, not only could there be no electricity, but there would be no way to dump the heat generated in it on the station. The vacuum of space doesn't transfer heat, sound, electricity, or your mom. She'd pop. For all we know, our galaxy is just a speck inside the cell of some organism so much larger than us that we cannot comprehend it. Think of a cell on your arm. Our galaxy could be space sitting in between that cell. It's almost certainly that there's a lot out there, but we will never find out what it is before our sun burns out. Oh man, this is a daily ongoing thing in our house. My almost 4-year-old autistic son is obsessed with anything space. Right now he's really into black holes. Supermassive black holes. Nothing can escape. Gravity. He's so matter of fact and I'm just sitting there like fuck. I have major anxiety about the universe lol. I think it's scary how much random stuff is flying around in it at high speed. I get that space is huge, and so the probability of getting killed by a projectile is pretty small, but they put the James Webb Telescope out there, and one of the mirrors is already unusable because it got hit by a meteorite. Until the 20th century, reality was everything humans could touch, smell, see, and hear. Since the initial publication of the Chart of Electromagnetic Spectrum, humans have learned that what they can touch, smell, see, and hear is less than 1/1,000,000th of reality. R. Buckminster Fuller. Everything. That all of humanity and human history exists on a tiny rock surrounded by a vast, seemingly infinite universe that cannot support human life. We have no idea why we're here, what else is out there, and what we will do if human pollution eventually makes Earth uninhabitable. For me, the scariest thing is that we are in it. I'm not sure if that makes sense and it doesn't hit me often, but I can create such a deep and unsettling dread by putting aside that Earth is its own thing and that it is just one more tiny rock, but happens to be the one I live on. A theory that says that the universe is old enough to host a society that has expanded to other planets and contacted us, but that has never happened, so we are either alone in the universe or any society has not lasted long enough to evolve to have the technology. You know our primordial fear of the dark, especially when you're in a room and it's pitch black and you can't grasp the wall no matter how far you reach? That's space. It's so empty that it makes you wonder if having awareness of how empty it is a curse. That one day our Earth will be orbiting inside the Sun when it begins its red giant stage, incinerating our planet and eventually retreating into the white dwarf phase. I'm hoping by this time humans would have found a way to migrate another habitable system. There are rogue black holes that travel around the universe, consuming bodies along their paths. Not to mention they are very dark and it's hard for telescopes and satellites to pick them up. Let's hope one doesn't discover our solar system. If you get lost in space, if you float away too far from the space station and you lose contact with them, there is no way you can be saved. You will keep floating in space until you eventually die because your oxygen tank is depleted. As humans we have a concept of time. Things have a beginning and an end. With space I have the idea that it had always been there and always will be, but the more I think about the concept, the harder it is to understand that. The fact that there are so many unnamed galaxies in space that may have life forms on them, or that there are so many asteroids roaming around freely in space that can crash into Earth and we can do anything about it. Humans are less even than a dust when we want to talk about how vast the size of universe and space are fucking giant. Human can be considered an atom in hindsight, insignificant to giant, that's the point. Space is big. Really big. You just won't believe how vastly hugely mind-bogglingly big it is. I mean, you may think it's a long way down the road to the chemist, but that's just peanuts to space. Because of the speed in which the universe expands, humanity will never be able to reach its further extent. Ever. Even if humanity is eternal and develops every technical advancement possible, we will never be able to communicate with other civilizations due to the lack of resources we got, so even if they exist we won't be able to reach them. So we're pretty much alone anyway. We are insignificant in the grand scale of things and we are more likely to destroy ourselves before ever getting to the level where interstellar travel is a possibility. That countless other life forms out there are dying horrible deaths. Famine, starvation and wars are all going on, and yet when we stare out into the night sky, silence. It's where we live. We comfortingly think space is up there and we are on the ground. We seldom realize we are just a speck of dust amongst untold trillions of specks. If you shrink the sun down to a tennis ball and put it in the center of Trafalgar Square in London, England, Alpha Centauri in Spain, that's how big space is. Nothing. Like as there's nothing there. You can look in a direction, head that way for a few billion miles and still hit nothing. It's terrifying honestly. One day, hundreds of billions of years in the future, all stars will burn out but there will be no fuel to create new ones. The universe will go dark. Not so terrifying, but we don't know what is it. We don't know how it was created. We don't know anything about it. We don't even know if it's endless. There are absolutely no In-N-Out burgers anywhere out there. Once you leave Earth, it's just low-grade hamburgers for billions of light years. There's nothing out there. Just a void. And when we succeed in killing Earth with pollution, there's nowhere we can go and survive. As soon as you finish cleaning a space, it will start getting dusty again and you will have to clean again. It's an endless cycle. We live on an infinite universe. In the grand scheme of things spanning uncountable trillion years, 15 billion years is just a spark. The sheer size of it and the distance between things. Knowing that no matter how hard you try, some things you will never reach. The fact that there may be millions of civilizations out there. Or that we are all alone. Both thoughts are equally terrifying. Black holes, the scale comparison and the unknown. The thought of black holes terrifies me far more than the idea of aliens. That if you focus too much on the concept knowledge of infinity while standing on Earth, it can really fuck your head up. It's controlled by one group only and they're offering access to every country that can provide what they are looking for. That is less than 5 of the total universe is normal matter and the rest is dark matter and dark energy and it is unknown. Something scary about space is 95 is unknown. There could be a colors we haven't seen or alien celestial beings anything. Mars used to have a livable atmosphere, but solar wind destroyed the magnetic field billions of years ago. That is Fermi paradox. Here am I sitting in a tin can. Far above the world. Planet Earth is blue. And there's nothing I can do. Space is huge. So huge, in fact, that if you lost your car keys in it, you would probably never find them. That white holes might exist and instead of sucking stuff in like black holes they kinda throw stuff out. Everything we see is in the past so the rest of the universe is probably destroyed but we don't see it. If you stood on one side and another person stood on the other you would not be able to see them. There are monsters out there that make anything we can possibly imagine here on Earth look tame. They just figured out that black holes don't just suck stuff in, but they spit it back out too. We would instantly implode in it without a space suit. And we are completely surrounded by it. The giant black hole roaming the universe, they gave it a name but I forget what it's called.